Welcome to today's Explainer. We are jumping right into a massive, frankly fascinating mission today. We're going to figure out exactly which big tech giant is going to ultimately dominate the AI era. Everyone is talking about artificial intelligence right now, but behind the scenes, there is an absolute war going on to become the supreme market leader. And knowing who is actually going to win that battle, well, that could completely redefine your investment portfolio for the next decade.
Okay, let's dive right into this by asking the ultimate question. Who is going to be the absolute ruler of this new frontier? Like, who is going to become the Apple of the AI era? The winner actually won't necessarily be the one who builds the core underlying AI models. Instead, it's going to be the company that can assemble those AI engines, almost like snapping Lego blocks together, and turn them into irresistible, everyday services that claim the #1 market cap in the world. We've really got three main contenders here: Microsoft, Google, and the combined mega empire of Tesla and SpaceX.
To figure out who actually takes the crown, history shows us exactly where we need to look. Think back to the PC era for a second. Hardware creators, like HP or Dell, they were completely trapped in these brutal price wars with super low margins. It was Microsoft who took the throne by owning Windows. Then, in the smartphone era, pure hardware makers struggled again, while Apple built this massive, impenetrable walled garden. They integrated the hardware, the software, and slapped on a 30% App Store tax. The companies that build the walled garden absolutely always win the highest margins and create total ecosystem lock-in.
So the crucial takeaway here is that the real money is made in what we call the last mile of AI. The upstream, that's the chips. The midstream, those are the raw foundation models like OpenAI's GPT or Google's Gemini. But the last mile is the downstream application layer. It's the exact point where those raw models are transformed into specific workflows, actual tools, and user experiences that customers are literally willing to open their wallets and pay for. That is where the real fortune lies. All right, let's look at contender #1 for the last mile crown, Microsoft. Look, they are the undeniable kings of the B2B market. I mean, with Office 365 and Azure, their lock-in with enterprise workflows is just incredible. Corporate workers spend their entire day living inside Word, Excel, and Teams, right? And Microsoft is masterfully plugging their AI copilots right into those tools where all the data already sits. But, and this is a big but, they have a weakness. They completely dominate your office, sure, but they really lack that magical, intuitive culture to dominate your personal lifestyle. They just aren't the cool, consumer-facing walled garden that Apple is. So what about Google? Well, Google is taking a totally different route. They're going for a horizontal monopoly. Just like they did with Android on phones, they want to take their incredibly smart Gemini AI brain and put it inside other people's hardware. For example, they're partnering with massive hardware giants, pairing their software with Hyundai's Boston Dynamics robots. On paper, it sounds like a perfect marriage, right? Well, it actually creates a massive dilemma over who really owns the data and, more importantly, who gets to keep the profit margins. And that perfectly illustrates the fatal flaw in Google's master plan, the alliance dilemma. Eventually, these hardware partners are going to wake up to a pretty harsh reality. They'll realize they're basically just producing a physical shell for Google's data. They are taking on the massive, heavy capital expenses of building real physical robots operating on brutal 10% margins just to act as sensors for someone else. Because once Google completely controls the AI brain, you better believe they'll start charging their own platform taxes, leaving the hardware makers fighting over crumbs. Which brings us to a massive revelation involving Elon Musk's empire. Think about it. Currently, if an AI company wants to reach users on a smartphone, they are basically just a tenant. They're forced to live on Apple or Google's mobile operating systems, which means paying a massive 30% tenant tax on their revenue. Tesla and SpaceX realize that to truly win this entire game, you can't be the tenant. You have to be the landlord. By building their own robotic hardware and their own operating systems from the ground up, they bypass that whole smartphone duopoly entirely. This is absolutely wild when you really look at it. Tesla and SpaceX have built an unbelievable, completely vertically integrated empire based on a totally different philosophy. First off, they have a monopoly on real-world, 3D physical data from millions of cars driving around right now, not just scraped internet text. Second, they've built a distributed supercomputer. How? By putting the AI chips directly inside the cars and robots, meaning they pass the actual hardware cost right to the consumer. Throw in Starlink as a global, low-latency distribution network, and SpaceX as the ultimate zero-gravity physics lab, you have an ecosystem that literally no one else can touch. Through this empire, Tesla is mastering something totally groundbreaking: the physical last mile.
It's one thing for a digital AI assistant to quietly summarize your emails or draft a Word document on your laptop screen. But it's a completely different, massive leap to have physical robots, like their Optimus humanoid, actually executing complex manual labor in the real world. We're talking about a robot doing your laundry, organizing your messy garage, carrying your heavy groceries. Moving from mere pixels on a screen to physical, tangible help in your home, that is the ultimate frontier.
But okay, let's bring this back down to earth for a second with a quick financial reality check. Because right now, Tesla is trading at a staggering 350 times its price-to-earnings ratio. For a traditional manufacturing company that just sells, metal boxes on wheels, a multiple like that is totally disconnected from reality. That disconnect is so incredibly obvious when you compare them to the traditional automakers. Giants like Hyundai, Kia, and Toyota, they sit comfortably at single-digit PE ratios, 5, 9. Meanwhile, Tesla rockets all the way to 350. Investors are screaming a very clear message here. They are absolutely not pricing Tesla as a car company anymore. They are pricing in a future robotics and AI software monopoly that they believe will command the massive, juicy profit margins of big tech. Hold on, though. Before we just crown a winner, we need to pump the brakes and separate the CEO hype from actual scientific reality when it comes to the timeline. We constantly hear executives promising that AGI, artificial general intelligence, is just 2 to 3 years away? But there is a massive, fundamental gap between the digital AGI they are talking about and the human-like physical robots that the general public is imagining. The reality is that the timeline is actually split in two. Software AGI, meaning an AI that can autonomously handle complex coding, write up legal briefs, do all those white-collar digital tasks, that genuinely is only a few years away, 1 to 3 years max. And that massively benefits Microsoft and Google right now. But hardware AGI, true physical robots navigating the absolute chaos of our homes and actually doing our chores, experts across the board agree that is a much longer-term project. We're looking at least 10 to 15 years out for that to become a reality. And here is exactly why physical AGI is so incredibly difficult. Just think about folding laundry. To a robot, a soft t-shirt is a deformable object that changes shape every single millisecond it moves. Actually, folding a fitted sheet is nearly impossible for us humans, let alone a robot. Or take the dishwasher challenge. A robot has to instantly know the difference between gripping a heavy cast iron pan and holding a super fragile wine glass. Unlike a perfectly flat, highly controlled factory floor, our homes are pure, unpredictable chaos. There are toys on the floor, pets running around. It's an absolute nightmare for physical AI to navigate. So the really crucial point is how this split timeline affects market valuations today. A lot of people call this whole AI boom a bubble, but that's not quite right. Companies like NVIDIA and Microsoft, they are not in a bubble. They are pulling in tens of billions in real, tangible profits right now, literally selling the infrastructure for that 3-year software AGI rollout. Tesla, on the exact flip side, is entirely hope-driven right now. Their current sky-high valuation relies on investors fully pricing in that 10-year, futuristic vision of hardware AGI today. So, the million-dollar question: how do we actually practically trade this tournament of titans? Well, a smart strategy looks like this. First, send out a scout investment. Just buy a small, fractional amount right now to stay engaged in the market and kill that FOMO. Second, patiently wait for the silent spring. Keep some cash ready to deploy during those inevitable macroeconomic market dips. And finally, split your timeline. You don't have to just pick one winner here. Balance your portfolio by holding Microsoft and Google to capitalize on the 3-year software boom happening today, while actively accumulating Tesla on the dips for the massive 10-year physical hardware revolution of tomorrow. As we wrap up today's explainer, it becomes pretty clear. While Microsoft and Google are undeniably incredible companies dominating the digital sphere right now, the ultimate apple of the physical AI era, the true untouchable walled garden of the future, really looks to be the Tesla and SpaceX empire. So the final question you have to ask yourself as you build out your own investment strategy is this: where are you putting your chips? Are you betting your portfolio heavily on the immediate 3-year software revolution, or are you holding out for the 10-year physical robotics empire? Thanks for exploring this with us, and keep questioning the future.